Hello, it's me, Ernie, and today is Friday, about noontime on the 30th, and something occurred to me today, which is kind of odd, because I say Thursday, it's Friday, the 30th. Anyway, something I have been typically thought of throughout my whole life, and to cut to the chase, it's the birthday of my father. My father's name is Richard John Fowler, and growing up, we had the same birthday month. Mine is the 19th, which I just celebrated, and his is the 30th. And pondering the meaning of the day, I realized, never celebrated a birthday with my father. He was out of the house permanently probably about the time I was 8 or 9, somewhere around in there. He started not coming home all the time, and as a very young child, during the winter, I used to like to sneak out of my bedroom and lay behind the couch by the front door against a forced air furnace register. I'd have a blanket with me, and I'd kind of make a little fort with just me in it. And of course, I wasn't supposed to be out there, so I would try to be, real quiet. And, I remember a number of times him coming home at some time late at night, early morning, and I'd be like, I hope he didn't see me. If he had ever seen me, he didn't make it known to me. Then he would just come around on holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, my birthday, and he'd pop in and give me a gift, and whatever, whoever else, whatever, and this was normal for me. Now, growing up, all my friends, I think every single friend I grew up with had a complete family unit. Mom, dad, kids, dog, guppy. But not me. So, growing up that way, they say, you can't miss what you've never had. And I really, truly do believe that's so, because I had to grow up with my mom being the authority and the dealer with punishments and whatever when I did things I wasn't supposed to. And then being the youngest of 4 children, my older siblings also took on part of that role, whether they enjoyed it or not or whatever. I'm sure it was a real pain in the ass for them. But this was our family, There's about 10 years, 12 years, I think, between myself and my oldest sister, Sharon. And then my brother, Gary, a couple years below her. And then my other sister, Elaine, and she's 5 years older than me. She's coming up. She's going to have a birthday in December 19th. And I always remembered that because my birthday was November 19th. Hers was December 19th. So anyway, growing up without a father, it was normal for me. And I don't ever remember or pining for a time that I would have a father. I mean, I had a father, but he just wasn't around. And I grew up with all these stories about, he worked for the longest time, he worked for a dairy in the Syracuse area, Bday. And I believe they're still open today. But he came up through the ranks as a delivery guy, and then he moved his way up into the office. And you like that bedhead hair going on? Anyway, but some important things about my father is that he was in the Navy and was involved in intelligence. I probably shouldn't be telling you this because he's still alive, and I could be jeopardizing his life and national security and my life, maybe, or my children, who he's never met. Anyway, so of course, this is what I'd tell my friends. I never said he was a spy. I never said he was a secret agent. I just said he was in naval intelligence. I think this is a line of bullshit he tried to sell my mother on why he had to be gone for, portions of time. And that was his excuse, that he never actually retired from the Navy, but now he was working with naval intelligence, and his job at the dairy was just a cover story, and blah, 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 blah. But as a little kid, that's cool. I have a reason why my father isn't around. Do you have a reason why your father is always home and drunk and hits your mom? I don't know. That didn't happen with my mom. Anyway, I didn't think about those things. And as I became a teenager, and, then, I'm sorry. So after a while, he just stopped coming altogether. Wouldn't see him for any holiday, wouldn't get any gifts, any cards. And it wasn't just his children and his wife, who he was still married to, my mom at the time. It was his own family, too. He had 2 brothers, and they both had wives, and they all had children. So I had cousins, and his mother lived with one of my uncles and aunts. And, he would still call her, I think, on Mother's Day or on her birthday. But then eventually those phone calls stopped as well. So me getting ready to graduate high school, I wanted to go to college. And my mom said, okay, well, guess what? Bday offers a scholarship for its children of employees. And so I called your father and asked him how that worked. And he said, you just had to go down there and get a piece of paper from him for the scholarship. The scholarship was only for $500, but whatever, At the time, we're talking about 1983, and so going to community college, and $500 helped. So anyway, I couldn't tell you how many years it had been since I saw him. Many. And me being now 18, being a man, I drove to his office, had never been there in my life, found out where his office was, and went and collected this paper. He looked at me like I was any other stranger on the street. No recognition, no how you doing, gee, I missed you. I mean, he could have given me a line of bullshit. He could have tried to sell me on some grand idea, but he didn't, which told me he doesn't really care. But guess what? I didn't really care either. So I get this scholarship, and I can't tell you the next time I saw him. He's still alive. This was 1983, 82, 83. I graduated the summer of 82, so it could have been even that fall. Maybe I went there. I don't recall right now. But I can't ever remember seeing him again. And so life goes on. I get married. I have children. My sisters get married. My brother gets married numerous times, has a number of children. He doesn't know any of them, never met any of them. So he's got this whole big extended family that he just basically wrote off. So fast forward to my grandmother, his mother, passed away. I won't go into the details and make this a big long story. But she died suddenly. So I was tasked with trying to hunt him down. To let him, nobody had a phone number for him. Nobody had an address for him. And so I was married at the time and had, one or both of my daughters at the time. Anyway, and I worked at the time for an appliance store that had access to this directory. It was a business directory. You had to be a licensed business to get this directory. And it lists all the names of people that lived in that whole area, the Syracuse, Onondaga County area. And it also listed addresses. So every house that was built, they would come out with a new directory every so often. And so you could cross-reference people by phone numbers, by their name, by address, vice versa, whatever. Because somebody could still be living at a certain address but change their phone number. And if you were a business, that would be information that's valuable to you. So anyway, I tracked down the only Richard John Fowler that was in this directory, and I didn't even know if he would be in there. But he was, and the last known address. So my wife and I and my uncle one evening drove out to notify him that his mother had passed, and these were the details of when the funeral was going to be, burial, in case he wanted to come and pay his respects. So we get to the door. Now, like I said, I haven't seen him since I was 18. I have no idea what to expect. And so I have no real expectations at all. Just, I'm here to do a job. Knock on the door. Somebody opens the door, and it's a lady. I don't recognize her. I don't know her. I ask, is Richard Fowler here? And she said, well, no, he isn't. I said, does he live here? And she said, well, kind of. Come on in. So we went inside, and come to find out, this was his wife that he married after he cheated on my mom with this lady and had been with him for years. And at some point they got married, and she was in the middle of packing boxes. and told us that the reason she answered the way she did was that they were getting divorced and she was packing up and he was going to be moving and they're going to be selling their home there. And she asked, actually, she looked at me for a moment. Now I was clean shaven and, still pretty young. And she said, "Are you Ernie?" And I said, "Yeah." I introduced her to my wife and my uncle, his brother, that she had never heard of. And we chatted for just a couple minutes about family. And she said, "Well, would like to tell you that I knew he had children because I knew he was paying child support and whatnot. And I would always ask him, early on, do you want to have your kids over and, spend some time with them whenever during the holidays, here, then." Never showed an inkling of desire or concern about his family. And I said, well, that pretty much sums it. My life with him is non-existent. So we gave her the information, and I don't think really any of us really expected him to show up. So we had the service at the funeral home, and I and a lot of my family were keeping an eye out to see if somebody came, sat in the back, or stood off to the, just trying to see if he was going to make an appearance. Now, I could pretty much guarantee he wouldn't get caught dead showing up. No, sorry, I didn't mean to make that funny, but yeah, he wouldn't have got caught dead showing up to his mother's funeral. Because that's the kind of personality he had. He was a little weasel. So then we go to the burial. Now, this is an opportunity for him. We're outside and there's other funerals going on in this cemetery. It was a pretty large cemetery and different services going on. So it would have been easy for him to even just to look from a distance or in some way pay respects to the lady that bore him. But nobody thought he ever showed up. And now we're going to fast forward again to a few years ago. And I was told the details of how this went, but I can't recall them now. But my sister was walking in her neighborhood, and her oldest daughter and husband had bought a house in this other neighborhood adjoining. And I guess they would walk together, I think her and her daughter, or something of this nature. And now I can't remember how this happened, but somehow she found out that he was living in a house in the same neighborhood as his granddaughter. And I'm not sure how my sister confirmed it, but ultimately, so this is just a few years ago, wrote a letter on Father's Day. Yeah, she confirmed he lived there, wrote this big long letter. Now, my sister Elaine held such hatred in her heart for her father because he was abusive. Now, you have to remember when I said I didn't have much to do with him at all. So each kid down the line from my sister Sharon down was a little less, and then me. So she had dealt with him in enough ways as a child to resent him and hate him. Now, through the years, also, my oldest sister, Sharon, had kept in contact with him, I think mostly by mail, and maybe a few phone calls. I don't know if they ever saw each other in person, but that's not the point. So her writing this letter was a huge step in her healing herself. Had nothing to do with him. I won't swear. Try to keep this PG. The hell with him. But it was her way of getting it all out after all these years. And he was married again now. And long story short, I guess his wife contacts my sister. And they invite them to dinner. I don't remember if it was at their house or they went to a restaurant or whatever. But my sister met him and his wife, and come to find out, this woman he was married, or is currently married to, he had been cheating on with his second wife and had been seeing her since she was a teenager, I guess. And he was so many years older than her. I think she's closer, actually, to my sister Elaine's age. And, which, that's how he was. I remember a story Elaine telling us way back after she just got out of high school, was in a bar, local bar, and she saw him. And she said to the people, her friends, that's my father over there. And he was with this young girl. And Elaine said that the girl looked like, could have been her age. It might have been this woman. I don't know now. But she said she had enough guts to go up to him at that time and said, "Hi, Dad." And he looked at her like looking through a glass window, clear glass window. "I'm sorry. You must have me confused with somebody else." No, you're Richard John Fowler, my father." And I don't know how that ended. But that was the last contact she had, I believe, from him. So now, fast forward up to now. Both his brothers have passed away now since. And he was nowhere to be seen. Never showed up for his own brothers. And this all happened prior to Elaine finding that he happened to live in her daughter's neighborhood. And I guess they met a couple times. But then she was waiting to hear him say he was sorry. And the way I take it from Elaine is that he never once showed any concern that he had ever done anything wrong. And as a matter of fact, my father was always into magic, hand magic, up close, cards and stuff. I guess I never saw it. But anyway, the thing he asked my sister is, I'd like to teach you magic. And she's like, yeah, okay, sure. Show me a card trick or something, But he was like dead serious that he had this knowledge he wanted to pass on. But I'll only teach you if you're going to be serious about it. And that's when she realized there's just a bunch of screws that are all just thrown in their Jabberwocky. And developed the friendship with, I guess she's our stepmother. And they go to church and they see each other periodically and talk and converse. And she met all the grandchildren. Well, she met Elaine's children. She hasn't met mine. And Elaine asked me, I was up there I can't remember the last time I was up there, and she asked me, do you want to meet him? And I go, nope. I didn't even have to think about it. I didn't even have to ponder it, because he was just a man. He gave some DNA to my mother that created me. I have some of his traits. I remember growing up, my mom, and a lot of times said, you're just like your father. You're just like your father. And, as a kid, you like hearing that, like, oh, yeah, okay, I'm Dad's son. But you never saw me play baseball. You never came to a football game. You never came to a school event or nothing. I was raised, went to college, had a family, went to college again, became a respiratory therapist, Now my children are adults. Naomi is my youngest. She's married. I'm assuming they're going to have some children. My oldest daughter, Elizabeth, isn't married, but I'm assuming at some point she's going to have children, and I will be a grandfather, and he'll be, a great-grandfather if he's still alive. He is as of today, I believe. So I can't tell you why this came to my mind, that today was my father's birthday. I can't tell you why. Am I going to do anything about it? No. Am I going to celebrate it? No. But I thought maybe it'd be good for me to talk to you guys out there and just, we all have different family situations. And I know my life could have been vastly different if I had another parent, if I had a father. Now, I had a few people, men, that were kind of father figures to me growing up, but not truly and not importantly enough, I guess I should say. And so, this idea comes up that it's his birthday, and I'm like, I'm going to go on Facebook and share my story. And like I said, everybody has their own stories. Everybody's family dynamics are different. And that's what makes life the way it is, and makes life so interesting, is the diverse groups of people that end up being families and the way they're all connected and things. But my father's quite old, and as my mom is too. She's still with us, thank God. But they're getting older, and they're going to come a time when they won't be here. And so one of the things growing up that I said to myself, I'm never going to be like my father. I'm never going to run away from my responsibilities if I have children. I mean, I just wouldn't do that. And I've been married twice. And I've been divorced twice. And when I got divorced the first time, my ex-wife now, my then wife, accused me of being just like my father. Now, if there's anything that could have hurt more deeply, even though I didn't care about that man, I didn't have any regard for him, I just wasn't going to be him. I wasn't going to follow the same path. Now, because my marriage broke up, didn't mean I was going to exit myself from my kids' lives, and I never did till this day. I was responsible financially. I even though I didn't live with them or even live in the same town, wherever I happened to be, I was traveling a lot during their upbringing with work, and we, in our divorce settlement, had decided that we were going to go odd even on the, every other holiday. So school holidays, summer vacation, I would have them for the first half, and then the next year I'd have them for the second half. So I could have chunks of time with my kids instead of trying to see them every other weekend, which ultimately I did that at first. And probably total time that they were with me, less than 24 hours because of certain restraints and demands that their mother made of when they could go and when they could come back. But regardless, I didn't become my father, and I still haven't become my father. I still have a relationship with my children. I've been to their high school graduations. I went to Naomi's wedding. And like I said, I look forward to them maybe having children if I can stay alive long enough. Knock on wood somewhere. But, so today's my father's birthday. I couldn't tell you how old he is. Couldn't tell you what his favorite color is. Couldn't tell you if he played sports in high school. Couldn't tell you a nickel worth of anything about that man. But if he hadn't been born, I wouldn't have been born. So, happy birthday, Dad, Papa, Pa, Father. And just know, as screwed up as my life has been, and I've made thousands of mistakes in relationships and whatever. But the one thing I can say with total conviction is I was never you. And I know you'll probably never see this, and you could care two shits if you did see it. But again, I'm clearing my conscience for myself, not for you. So I'm sorry that this has gone on so long. But be good. Love each other. We just had Thanksgiving a couple of weeks ago. Christmas is around the corner. Go Cowboys. Woo! They just beat the Saints last night, 13-10, which nobody saw it coming. Nobody. Anyway, have a good day. God bless.